All right, guys, welcome to day two of the Seven Figure Sourcing Summit. Today, I'm super excited to have our live panel and our guests. Today's topic is advanced sourcing. We're going to cover shipping, negotiations, quality control, lab testing. We'll have some other time. We'll have time for Q&A as well. So I'm super excited for today. And I'm curious for everyone that's watching, what's the number one takeaway you've gotten so far from the summit? Please let us know in the chat. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have people from all over the world. First off, I'd like to introduce Rafael Elbaz. He's joining us all the way from Israel. It's super late or early in the morning over there. Rafael is an expert when it comes to shipping, freight forwarding, and his talk today was about reducing your shipping costs for increasing profitability. So, welcome, Rafael. How's it going over
Thank you
there?
for having me.
Yes, excellent. All right. Next, I'd like to welcome Cameron Walker. He's an eight-figure seller. He's based in China. He's actually, people are asking, how did he get in? He's lived in China for over 20 years, right? So he's on the ground. He'll give you a fresh perspective, what's actually happening in China, amidst all the lockdowns as he's running his eight-figure business. And also we have Rahul Chavla. He's from Kima. He's an expert when it comes to quality control, inspections, lab certification. So he will give you insights from there as well. All right. So as we get started, I wanted to kick things off actually with Cameron, because Cameron actually he's behind the scenes in China. So can you give us a glimpse, Cameron? How's it like when it comes to running your business in China, sourcing? You're in Suzhou, right? How's everything look from your side?
Yeah, I'm in Suzhou. We moved from Shenzhen, so down in the south up to Suzhou about 6 months ago. Suzhou is about an hour's drive west of Shanghai. So obviously everyone knows all the craziness that's been going on in Shanghai the last 2 months. Somewhat impacted us, but not too much. Um, we do a lot of sourcing from the east of China, so in like Wenzhou and Yiwu, a little bit Hangzhou, Ningbo. We don't have anything going on in Shanghai, and then we do a lot of assembly in the south of China. So in Shenzhen and just to the east of Shenzhen in Huizhou. I guess I preface this with the fact that I'm an optimist at heart, but this year has been a lot easier for us than last year, significantly. There was lockdowns from February to about the last month. Kind of things were a little bit tricky in terms of logistics, in terms of getting trucks between certain cities, out of certain cities, into certain cities. But it was all manageable. We got everything done we needed to. Basically, if you look at shipping has definitely been easier this year than last year. The delays at the ports in the U.S. have been less, for us at least. The delays at the ports in the U.K. Have been less. Getting stuff out of China has actually been pretty easy. The costs have been coming down. So compared to last year, actually, this year has been pretty good. The last month in China, I mean, I think you can see two things. One is that COVID is not, they've kind of got it under control, even in Shanghai. And the other is that they're starting to feel the pinch on the economy. So the economy is obviously hurting really bad from all of these kind of lockdowns that have happened in the last 4 or 5 months, where they're not letting people travel between cities or provinces. So if you go to an airport like 2 months ago, it's just dead. There's like nobody there. It's kind of like, let's say March or April 2020 in the US. Yeah, 2020, the first year of the pandemic. So it's just totally empty. But ever since they kind of got COVID under control, they've been trying to open things up really quickly, just because I think they have a very clear sense that the economy's taking a huge hit. So I had a friend who took a flight yesterday, and he said the airport was packed. I have, my daughter in school. Basically all of her friends are traveling around China for the summer holidays. They've all got plans to travel around, be it driving, be it flying. So that's kind of back to normal. I did my first business trip a couple weeks ago. We didn't go anywhere from January until, or at least February until June, or sorry, until May. And then in late May, I drove from Suzhou to Yiwu to go to the market. And we were kind of, wondering what was going to happen when I got on the highway, when I got off the highway, wondering, hoping that there would be no quarantine on the way back. Smooth sailing. Just, if I had done that a month previous, it would have been a pain in the ass. I almost for sure would have got quarantined coming back. But yeah, things are opening up pretty quickly. So I think as long as Shanghai doesn't have any, Beijing or Shanghai doesn't have any huge problems, um, you know, things are going fairly well.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that, Cameron. And we'll have some more time to dive a little deeper into the actual nitty gritty of his running his 8-figure business. Also, I'd like to quickly welcome our surprise guest, our friend Chris Davey. He's a 7-figure seller, originally from UK, currently based in Shenzhen. Chris, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah. How you doing? Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. My name's Chris Davey. I've been living in China for the last 10 plus years, and my background's sourcing. But I've been selling on Amazon and we design our own products. We have 2 brands. We've been selling on Amazon since 2015. So.
Excellent. And then Chris gave a training earlier today on the 11 tips that he shared sourcing from China. And I think Chris is being a little modest because he actually comes from a supply chain background. He used to work for a major European audio speaker company, and then he was leading their whole sourcing division. So this guy is like a true expert when it comes to sourcing and supply chain. And if you haven't checked out his training, I definitely recommend that you check it out. He dives into a lot of nitty gritty. All right. So to kick things off, guys, we're seeing, right now all these changes in the whole sourcing landscape. We've seen like sourcing shifts, like 3 major shifts in the past 2 years. I mean, this is unheard of in our lifetime, and we're going into post-COVID, and there's the shipping costs, there's inflation. I'm just curious, what is the number one thing that you feel you need to pay attention to right now as a seller? What's the number one thing? I just like to quickly go around the room. So Raphael, what do you think?
Well, I would agree with Cameron that things looks much better this year compared to last year. I'm not talking about the lockdown. I'm talking about more of from a shipping perspective, where prices are going down. Capacity is much better. There is no problem moving cargo. There is no problem moving shipments. Destination ports getting less and less congested. And also we kind of, we were used to the horror stories and the terrible situation we had last year or in the past 2 years, and now this year seems pretty easy compared to previous years. So I would say that things are getting better. We kind of got to a point where it's even better than normal. We got used to the worst, and now it's getting easier and better and better. Shipping costs are going down. This week they went down again, container pricing. I believe we will see them keep on going down in the next couple of weeks, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna hit $7,000, $6,000 a container pretty soon.
Wow. I see some hands clapping out there. There's some happy sellers. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raphael. And next, Rahul, what's the number one thing that sellers should pay attention to right now in your view?
Yeah, pay attention to countries that you're sourcing from now. There are a lot more options because since China had its own issues of lockdowns, of course, the other countries took up the advantage on that, and India or Mexico or Vietnam. So it's a good chance, to explore those countries. At the same time, yes, like always, be careful about suppliers who might cut corners. So be careful with that. Definitely, there are more options with some better choices, lesser language barriers. If you near shore in Mexico, or go to India for sourcing, definitely. But again, the compliance and the quality control issues remain over there also. Maybe less, but still there.
Absolutely. And yesterday in day one's live panel, where we had sourcing experts from all over the world, one of the common things that they agreed on is, quality control inspections, just do it. You got to do it no matter if you're sourcing from Vietnam, from India, from Mexico, wherever. I mean, that's one of the common threads. So, definitely take advantage of resources. People like Rahul, from Kima, I've been using them for over a decade. They're experts when it comes to that. Also, I'd like to quickly highlight and give a shout out to India Sourcing Trip, as Raul was mentioning some other, new destinations to source from beyond China. I just like to thank India Sourcing Trip for sponsoring our event. Megla Bardwaj, Mark Jolly, and their team, they're actually organizing an actual trip where they can guide you on a trip in India this October, and you'll be able to visit the Delhi Fair, which is like the Canton Fair of India. Thousands of suppliers pre-vetted that you can walk the floor, get hands on with the products, and they'll take you to multiple Indian factories. And they have a lot of e-commerce mentors, coaches that you can learn from. So if you're interested in fast tracking your sourcing from India, definitely consider that. And I'll share the link in the chat in a minute. All right. So thanks for that, Rahul. Next, Chris, what would you say is the number one thing that sellers need to pay attention to right now?
Their costs, basically. Yeah, I mean, this is something I've been paying attention to all year this year. Yeah, but I'm sure there's a lot of sellers out there that aren't on top of their costs and aren't selling things for the right price. At the beginning of this year, we went through all of our costs, like how much our shipping was costing, how much all our raw material costs were, anything that had changed. We recalculated all our selling prices, and basically we started selling quite a lot more than increased our price quite a bit more than our competition. And actually, what that did was our revenue remained constant. Our daily sales units went down, but our profit level was in the ballpark where we needed it to be. When we went through and reviewed that in January, there was some products there that we were like only making 5% on, let's say. So many things have been moving. It's so important that you stay on top of that. You got PPC going crazy. You got shipping costs before going crazy. And of course, the stuff that you got at Amazon now, or you got in your warehouse in another country now, you paid quite a lot to ship it. Even it's coming down. That's why we review our costs pretty much like every month. So it's really, really important to stay on top of them, to make sure that you're profitable. So for us, some of our products we were selling, like, our products are quite niche and we design them ourselves. But some of our products were selling like $5 more than our competition. I mean, there's some products I even put up from maybe 1 year ago. They were selling for like $49.99. Now they sell for $89.99. This is inflation. It's a big thing that you need to stay on top of your costs. Otherwise, you're going to go out of business. So.
Yeah, 100%. You got to know your numbers. Yeah, I know that Chris dropped a couple of nuggets in his training earlier today. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check that out. All right. And Cameron, what's the number one thing that sellers should be paying attention to right now?
I think it's a pretty similar angle to Chris, except it sounds like he's got a lot more pricing power than we do. We sell against a fair amount of big brands like Melissa and Doug, and kind of some of these 1P brands where Amazon is matching the retail price that you can find in Walmart. And those prices are really low, to be honest. So I don't think we have the pricing power that Chris has, but to put it a different way, what we've been focusing on is efficiency, which part of that is cost for sure. We've been redoing a lot of our FBA packaging since they put in the new dimensional weight for products under 0.75 pounds rule a couple months ago. So we've been redoing a lot of our packaging to make it smaller, to make it thinner. We've customized, totally from scratch, custom made some parts of our products to be thinner, just so the entire box can be thinner. So we've done a fair amount of that kind of stuff. We've been optimizing our 3PL spend. So major thing being pallet efficiency. Like we basically, what we used to do is when we were designing our outer cartons, we didn't pay very close attention to the number, like the amount of space that were wasted on a pallet. And we had, every product had a different outer carton dimensions. Recently, we've standardized all our outer cartons there's only 4 sizes now for all of our 60 or 70 SKUs. And the efficiency on a pallet is, 80, 90%. So there's not, the cartons go right to the edge. They can be stacked close to the limit, etc., which cuts down on a lot of the 3PL costs. We're also balancing. Before the pandemic, we sent a lot through AGL, through Amazon Global Logistics. And then during the pandemic, because the storage limits were low, we kind of shifted back to 3PL, or we shifted to a 3PL model. Now we're kind of going back in the other direction and shipping a bunch more by AGL. Basically, things that we know are going to sell through pretty fast, we now will send it directly to Amazon through Amazon Global Logistics, just because it's a lot cheaper. And stuff that we know will be around for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, especially around Q4, where we can't send it all into Amazon. That stuff, a portion of it, we'll do through our 3PL at the high kind of pallet efficiency. So it's not just, everyone knows to look at their product costs, but there's a lot more cost leak going on if you look at other items in your P&L as well. You have to look through the whole thing and kind of see where you can increase your efficiency.
Yeah, that's huge, Cameron. Palette efficiency, and I actually cover this in my training in advanced negotiations. I shared a case study with IKEA, because if you think about IKEA, they're like the masters when it comes to flat packing, and they're able to like stuff so much more stuff on a single pallet. And then the example that I used was actually with these IKEA coffee mugs. I'm sure like probably most of you guys have this in your house. It's like a coffee mug, it's a nice clean design, it's durable, and super cheap. It was like $1 or something like that. And in generation 1 of their packaging, they were able to fit like 500 cups on a pallet. But then through like pallet efficiency, like what Cameron's talking about, they were able to go from 500 to over 2,000 cups on a single pallet. So that's like 4x, and think about all the cost savings and shipping and storage, etc. So I think that's a huge point when it comes to cost savings, and that's even more important now than ever. You also mentioned AGL, Amazon Global Logistics, and I'm curious, Raphael, your Unicargo is a freight forwarder. What is your take on Amazon Global Logistics? It sounds like they're very cheap. Can you give us another perspective about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when AGL came, AGL started, dealing with Chinese exporters, I would say almost 4 years ago. They called it the Dragon Boat Project, and it was kind of under the radar until they registered themselves with the FMC. I think it was 2 years ago. And since then, they started offering, sellers freight forwarding services directly to Amazon. And they have another program that is geared towards non-Amazon. So they actually now ship to a 3PLs, to an external 3PLs. Freight forwarding community were all scared about it. They were all fuss and buzz about Amazon going into businesses, starting killing off smaller freight forwarders. But eventually it didn't happen. Amazon has its cons and its pros, and like Cameron said, one of the most important things in AGL and their key, the strongest point right now is the cost price, the cost, right? Amazon sells containers lower than almost anybody to Amazon sellers, I mean. And now there is no freight forwarder that can offer a smaller Amazon seller or a medium-sized Amazon seller prices that Amazon can offer. I've heard about containers costing $5,000, $4,000 at the peak of the pandemic, where actual container costs were 12, 13, 14, $15,000 a container. So nobody could compete with that. But the reason it does not kill the smaller freight forwarders or medium freight forwarders, because Amazon has a lot of disadvantages on this type of projects as well. First of all, I heard this is very, very slow compared to working directly with a freight forwarder. Again, if you are not based in China, if you are a Western supplier, the support is almost minimum, right? You have no one to actually talk to if your cargo is stuck. You have an email box that you can email and hope for a response, but you don't have that personal customer service level that you can pick up the phone and scream at someone and get someone on the other line to actually help you and explain you what's going on or move stuff, which is very, very important when it comes to your business, right? You can't just ship and forget. You have to control your freight, especially if you're moving a lot of containers. They have a lot of problem working with suppliers that doesn't have export license. A lot of suppliers in China doesn't have export license, and that's okay. But Amazon requires an exporter of record, and again, it's almost impossible for the medium sized, small size, medium sized seller, again Western seller who is not actually sitting in China like Cameron. It's almost impossible to get an exporter of record in China where your supply cannot act as an exporter of record. An exporter of record basically is an exporter with an export license who's permitted to export and have the licensing and documentation that Amazon requires. Again, there are many disadvantages to Amazon, and that's why they are not, completely killing the competition. But I completely agree with Cameron. In some cases, it makes perfectly sense to just ship with Amazon because it's much cheaper. And yeah, no, we don't fear Amazon anymore. Again, the freight forwarding community. 2 years ago, it was a very big thing. Everybody was talking about it in the freight forwarding industry about Amazon going into business and what's going to happen and what's the future will look like if they'll start killing the competition like they're doing retail and e-commerce. But it never happened.
Yeah, there are pros and cons for sure. I've told the manager that I know in China, the AGL manager, I've told her directly. It's like her entire business depends on the storage limits of Amazon, which she has no control over because it's a different department that decides that. When the storage limits are high, like they are right now, a lot of people will migrate to use AGL. The moment the storage limits start getting pushed down and you're not allowed to send a ton to Amazon at a time, AGL just goes to zero basically, and everyone shifts back to 3PL. So Amazon controls that entire market. To be honest, like if you're a 3PL in the US or the UK, like I don't know how you do forecasting, because one of the most important thing about how much stuff you're gonna have in storage if you're working with e-commerce sellers is how much Amazon, like what the storage limits at Amazon are.
Yeah, exactly. That's almost like building your house on someone else's property, right? Someone can just take that away tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
I've just got one thing to say on Cameron's chat as well. We've done the box optimization, pallet optimization as well. And one of the things that came out of there is that we had like big problems with our 3PL where like they were like totally overcharging us for the amount of pallets that they had in stock, and we had a lot of arguments with them about, you know, like every month they were like charging us for like 20 or 30 extra pallets that, you know, they didn't have, and we really had to dig into their system. And they were like, oh, like, we've got the stock here. Yeah, we know exactly how much is here. We counted it by hand. I don't care. I calculated it by computer, and it's much more reliable, yeah, than you calculating it by hand. Go out there and count it again.
Is that your UK one or your US one?
No, the UK one's good. I know why Cameron's asking to use the same one as me. No, the US one.
We're like working through spreadsheets right now with UK. I haven't found any problems, but we're like digging into, you have to dig into and audit your 3PL like invoices and the numbers. If you like, you definitely have to do that. Recommend everybody does that.
I was like, I looked at the number and I'm just like, that seems like very strange. Like, you know, last month they invoiced us for like 160 pallets. This month they invoiced us for 162 pallets. We didn't deliver anything to them this month, and we only shipped stuff out. How can we have more pallets than we had last month? It makes no sense.
A lot of things. I run 3PLs myself. We have a couple of facilities in the US, UK, and Germany. Now, 3PL optimization is something that nobody really talks about. By 3PL optimization, I mean, again, if you're high volume sellers and you have multiple SKUs, and let's say you have 100 pallets sitting in a 3PL, right? And this month you were shipping, I don't know, 500 units, 1,000 units from multiple SKUs. What happens is that your carton count goes down, but sometimes you're only shipping partial pallets. So you're not shipping a full pallet out. So which means sometimes you will actually be kind of moving, I don't know, 5 pallets worth of quantity of goods out of the 3PL, but eventually the 3PL will still have 100 pallets, right? Because it didn't ship a full pallet. And that's where you go into 3PL optimization and start consolidating pallet within your operation inside the 3PL. So that's another key to take.
Yeah, totally understand. I run a warehouse for more than 10 years, and so I totally understand that, like, you know, you might have a pallet with 60 boxes on it and you might only send out 30 that month. So hence there's still a pallet sitting there. So we went through all of them details with them. We actually use SoStock now, Cameron, by the way, just to calculate this pallet number. So we calculated all the optimum pallet quantities. We sent all them optimum pallet quantities to the warehouse. We got all of their sizes, like, oh, how high can they stack, etc., etc. We got all these details that how we got to that number. But like literally, they give me credit notes for like at least $700 every month for many months. So because they were overcharging me, and in the end, I spoke to the manager guy there, and he did go out and physically count them and come back to me and agreed that, yeah, there was like 30 or 40 pallets extra that they'd charged me for. So
that's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to use SoStock. I tried. Oh. But I know it's a good software because you've got like 30 years of experience and you say it's good, but I'm not smart enough.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. But it is a bit complicated, but it's really good. So
yeah, I mean, you got to know your numbers, right? And if you can't do it yourself, definitely there's tools out there like SoStock, and they're an alumni speaker of the summit as well. So definitely check them out. All right. So for everybody watching us, if you have any questions about shipping, any questions about 3PLs, definitely drop them in the chat. All right. This is key. And I'd like to quickly shift gears a little bit because, as everyone knows, Amazon, all of the rules, the compliances, everything keeps changing so quickly. And I wanted to ask Rahul, because Rahul really has his finger to the pulse when it comes to all of this compliance or certification. Is there anything new from Amazon recently with respect to compliance that sellers need to pay attention to?
Yes, there is. I see this coming more from the low business, inflation, and the diversification that people are looking at. So just 2 days ago, we were approached by Amazon US for the EU regulations. So I was also surprised. I'm like, why are you asking me for EU while you are from the US office? So the guy says, no, actually, I'm from the business team and we are helping sellers to expand to Europe. So this is something which is coming in. Perhaps like I said, it's more because of inflation. I'm assuming people are trying from newer markets to expand to. So if you try, getting into the EU, and if your products are CE mark, which are, most of the products are, you would need a EU authorized representative. Now, what that means is you need to have someone, and when I say someone, it has to be a legal entity that can represent you for the compliance purposes. So EU had this market surveillance rule from 16th of July last year, wherein they were trying to get hold of the e-commerce sellers. So, a lot of e-commerce sellers, especially from China, they were just selling in the EU, and their products would fail and won't, meet the compliance requirements, and they were nowhere to get hold of. So that's where, this rule came in, because they wanted better control on these e-commerce sellers, I mean the EU authorities. So so from there they said, no, we need to have someone locally where we can reach out to this representative if we have a question about compliance of the product. So that's something which started last year, and we actually had to incorporate a company specially for this service, separately, again, compliance reasons. So what we have started doing is, representing the companies, the brands in the EU for the compliance purposes only, not for promoting them or selling the products, only for compliance part. So if a seller is expanding from US to Germany or Italy, or even from UK to Europe, thank you, Brexit, even then you would need it if you have a product which is CE mark. In fact, Amazon itself has been very, high on this. Even Amazon Europe, uh, we have been discussing with them also. And a very tricky part here is there are a lot of cheaper players also. What we have found since last 1 year, there would be companies who would, give this service for a fraction of the cost, and Amazon is now planning to weed out these, bad players from this compliance market. So now they are, scrutinizing every single service provider who is doing this service, and I'm expecting there will be some, exits from the SPN very soon, for this particular service. So yeah, expanding to Europe, you would need this, but choose your service provider very carefully. The cheaper ones, what they have been doing is like they just say, yeah, we have an office in Europe, but it's just a virtual office. There's no real person sitting over there. There's nobody who is an expert in compliance if it comes to it. So it's like, even for lab testing, people go for cheaper companies which are not properly approved. And once, the brand is caught by Amazon, or even the the bodies in Europe or US, the brand falls into the problem. So I would say choose the service provider very carefully for this. It's catching up steam quite soon.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. And Kima provides a service, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, excellent. All
Do I
right.
have time to ask Raul my question? I can't
Yes,
wait
Raphael, please.
at the end.
And speakers, yeah,
I
feel free
really
to
want to
ask
have the
other.
answer.
Yes,
So
please.
before we started this panel, we met, and I asked Raul. We have a client who shipped 2 containers of toys, and obviously had his tests by SGS, by the way, one of the biggest, brand names in the testing industry. And the test report passed for lead content, right? Heavy substances in their plastic. And test report was fine. And last month the containers arrived, and CPSC has tested it. I don't know if you know it, but CPSC has a huge operation right now in the States, which means they are stopping so many containers, much more than usual. I've seen so many sellers getting stuck with CPSC now in the past month. So they probably have a special operation on toys or something. Usually they have it later the year, near the Christmas, the holidays. But anyways, so the test result passed, SGS test result, all legit. I've tested it, I've looked at it online. It's not fraud, it's a proper test result. Now CPSC has tested it themselves because they don't believe, the importers. And they found 700 ppm of lead on their plastic, where the allowed amount is less than 100. And
Right.
my question to Rahul is what's happened here? I mean, the test report, the SGS has tested it and found that it's passed and everything is fine.
Mm,
But when CPSC tested it, they found, you know, much, much, much higher levels of lead, which
mm.
is almost a crime to sell something like that. What happened here? What do I miss?
There could be multiple possibilities, but one of them you already nullified is. I was thinking of a fake report, but you say you already checked with SGS that it's a legitimate one. That's
Yeah.
fine. But the other thing which I could expect is maybe the report was legitimate, but it was quite old, or it's also
6 months
possible that,
ago.
sorry,
6 months ago.
6 months
I mean, the
ago.
key is it the same batch of product or not?
I was about to come to that. Perhaps the batch was different because suppliers, what they do is they send their best sample for the testing. They don't pull out the product from the bulk,
Yeah.
which was
And
actually,
they can
yeah,
replace,
they can,
suppliers during that time. They can buy it from
yeah,
other sources.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the bigger brands, what they do is they test it twice. They test before the production is started. They check the materials, and they check the finished product once the production starts.
This is so important. Guys, CPSC is going to seize 2 containers, right? This is 200,000 worth of $200,000 worth of goods.
And
Because
this importer is going to get their stuff checked
he's gonna
nine
get,
times in
yeah,
a
he's
row.
gonna get on a blacklist, and every single container he has in the next couple of years is gonna be tested again. So he'll probably get a new import of record, right? So
Yeah,
it'll be easier to start a clean sheet and build your credit, from scratch. But leave that. It's very, very important tip here. I don't know if you noticed, but if you manufacture toys, and these things could happen, right? Now that you say that, I guess this is what happened. It's probably a different. It's probably they bought a different component,
possible.
or they tested their best sample.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, the manufacturer, the manufacturer runs keep on going, and they might have different components.
yeah.
So it's
And
very,
from a,
very important to actually test a batch after it's ready, to have it tested before being shipped.
yeah,
It's
We had
great.
a supplier earlier this year, a major supplier of ours, who did a material switch. They basically not to this level of using something unsafe, but we were using a type of Triton plastic for water bottles that could withstand boiling water. So you have a plastic water bottle. You can put boiling water in it, and it won't change shape. We didn't really have we didn't really need it to be able to handle boiling water, but that was the contract that we have with the supplier to use that type of Triton plastic. And one day I just happened to have the water bottle at home, and I filled it up with boiling water, and it just changed shape. Like it basically
Oh,
started to melt in my hand, and I'm like, what the and went straight to the supplier, and they didn't change it to anything unsafe, but because we were pushing them so hard on the cost, they used a type of Triton plastic that was equally safe but could only withstand like 60 degrees Celsius or something like that. And we went through like 2 months of like basically
no.
yeah,
talking very a big process with them
yeah,
and with all our other suppliers to make sure that doesn't happen
yeah,
again, because if you're not careful, you can get switched to something like it sounds like what maybe happened to
yeah.
this supplier.
And Cameron,
Yeah,
glad you checked because it's also important how you market your product on Amazon. So if you say boiling water, you have to write it and with the proper warning labels. I mean, glad you
Yeah.
already checked. Otherwise, imagine if it happened with the consumer, they would put a bad review. So it's
Yeah.
important that you check everything in advance and put the right things on in your listing also, so that the consumers are not harmed. So you put proper warning labels, you put proper
Yeah.
instruction manuals in place.
Imagine
Just,
if
I
you
just
sold
kind
thousands of these, and after you sold these, you found out that suppliers changed materials.
Yeah,
That's
well,
this kind of
we
stuff
actually
frequently happens.
have sold a bunch of them, but the good thing is that we never marketed them as being able to
yeah.
handle boiling water, and overseas no kids, no one drinks hot water basically, whereas in China actually they do. And if you sold these water bottles in China
You'll
without
get
being able
screwed.
to take boiling water, you'd have a disaster on your hands.
Yeah, I was just going to say this kind of stuff frequently happens. Yeah, so when I was working for the big company and we're using a huge like OEM manufacturer, they decided to swap out some of our capacitors on a circuit board on the power supply for one of our speakers. And basically, they did it without telling us. We had a written specification with them. They're a very, very big company. And later we found out, oh yeah, they couldn't get that one, so they just changed it to an equivalent. All of our power supplies in 100,000 products failed over like a 2 or 3 year period. Luckily, it didn't happen at once. We had to like open call centers in like many, many countries. We had to like come up with like repair centers for everyone to send all these products back. It was a total nightmare. Yeah, I
What a
mean, and
headache.
that's the company I work for is like a multinational company, and the company we were using to manufacture them like employed 25,000 staff. They're like similar to a sort of China Foxconn, like a small Foxconn, if you like. So
We had something similar happen. This was before Amazon, but like 10 years ago, my wife was doing a contract manufacturing, custom kind of one-off. They were bar stools for a huge car dealership brand in the US. And the supplier switched out the thickness of the plywood inside the chair, and kind of, I think, made it a little bit thinner or made it a little bit lower grade. And they never imagined, they tested it, no problem with their 160, 170 pound people, no problem. What they didn't assume is that there would be 300-pound people sitting on the chairs. And the moment someone heavy sat on the chair, crack. Same thing as you, call centers, return, like the entire thing, just because a supplier decided to save money and make the plywood like half a centimeter thinner.
I would love to see Raul trying to do a quality test on this, finding a 300-pound person in China.
You just get three people, right? You get three people to sit on that stool.
actually, though, no, there's I've seen bigger people around. I don't know if cameras notice this, but people are getting bigger. Yeah, we got so many of these like drink stores, like high sugar drink stores in China now that are like so popular. And I'm starting to see people get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm quite big myself. In the last 10 years I've been here, I can now find clothes that fit me. I never used to be able to.
Yeah.
I miss
Yeah,
going into China. I really miss
Yes.
China.
yes, I do too. And yeah, I have some relatives. I mean, just side note, relatives in Beijing. My cousins, and they could naturally fit into like U.S. size clothing. I'll just put it that way. But anyways, going back to the materials, like possible materials switch. With Raphael's original question about the lead, right? Um, Rahul, if this seller could do things all over again, what should they have done? I mean, to test it twice, but on the second test, is it simply a pre-shipment inspection, or do they have to do like additional lab testing before they ship it out?
So I mean, this seems to be a very exceptional case, but majority of the people, we just suggest test the early of your bulk, like first 5% in the lab, and do a QC. You should be fine. But at the same time, I would say regulations keep changing. Today it was 100 ppm for lead. Tomorrow it can be 50 or 150 or something. So it's always advisable to check with the lab for the recent regulation, what it has been. And that's why I was asking how old is the report, because sometimes the reports are too old or they're not as per the recent regulation. So it's always good and advisable to check with the lab for the most recent regulations that are applicable. Like Cameron mentioned, materials can be changed, or if you yourself change the product for some reason, you change the design, you change the material. Again, check with the lab for the recent regulation that could be applicable on the newer materials that you have used. Uh, yeah, and then you do your thing accordingly. Then.
Excellent. All right, guys. I think that's a super key takeaway. I mean, you gotta get your product tested. You know, it could be twice to
If you
make any.
negotiate the price with the supplier and he agrees, I would I would test
Yeah.
it. I would send a sample from a new batch.
And
Right.
like you were talking about IKEA, Gary, IKEA also was caught in this whole scenario of CPSC. So if you remember our previous summit, I mentioned about this documentary on Netflix called Broken. So there is a one episode which is actually about the IKEA case that happened without about the chest drawers. So they had a huge claim from the
Mm.
CPSC, and some child died, and there was a huge lawsuit on IKEA just because of the unsafe product because of which a child died.
The
So
straps that were supposed to attach to the wall, right?
yes, exactly
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
on that
So it's
on
actually
that
on Netflix if
short,
you want
they
to
sold like
know
a
more.
billion or something like that.
Yeah. And it's also advisable, go through the CPSC recall list. It's publicly available on their website. For the US, it's CPSC. For Europe, it is ECHA. So ECHA is the regulating body, European Chemical Agency, and the website they have is called RAPEX, RAPEX. So you can check online for the recall list of both of them and understand what are the key issues that they see, and why they put the brands on the recall list.
Yeah, one thing I'll
Excellent.
just add as well was we had a problem a few years ago, probably about 4 years ago, where our products got stopped at customs, and they're like for 14 years and above, so they don't need a child protection certificate, but they were asking us for a child protection certificate. Now, my wife's Chinese. She started like calling to find out about this. And they were basically saying, oh, they're holding the goods until we give them the certificate. And we didn't actually need it. So we sent back this like declaration basically saying we didn't need it. These products are intended for 14 years and above. They were all printed on there, etc., etc. But one interesting thing that came out of that was when my wife was calling all these different laboratories. Yeah, there was one laboratory that offered us the certificate as long as we're willing to pay for it for that batch that was already sitting in America. And they were like an authorized laboratory on the US government website. And they were like, yeah, we can give you a certificate. We can get it on the system, like as long as you're willing to pay for it. So even you got the certificate, sometimes it's like, obviously that one's more expensive than the normal one.
All right. Okay, good stuff, guys. We just have a few minutes left before we close out the hour. I wanted to ask you guys about sourcing and online platforms, and I'm curious if we were to compare like Alibaba versus Global Sources versus 1688, which one do you use and why? And I feel like probably for Chris and Cameron, you guys are exceptions because you're based in China. But I'd like to hear your thoughts about that, anyways. So, would like to take a shot at this.
Okay, quick shot. We because we like design all the stuff ourselves, so we tend to work directly with a factory. So it's very rare that we're going to like any of these websites to buy finished products. So I mean, generally, like we will use 1688 or Taobao for like maybe some comparisons, but generally, we wouldn't be going there. So like but we might
So,
be
how do you
finding
find
like,
those factories there?
well, generally we found factories through word of mouth. So we have like specific factories that we're using, and quite often if we send them something there's a couple of things that go on. I mean, the factories in China will always tell you can make it, even if it's like nothing to do with them and they don't even have the machines to make it. But we've got a pretty good relationship with them. And a lot of them will now tell us the truth because they know they'll get in shit later, basically, if they don't. So they'll maybe recommend someone to us, and because we're in China, we'll go and visit them. And before like you said, I'm running a sourcing team in China. Visit like hundreds and hundreds of factories. Very interested in processes. The minute I walk into the factory, I know if this is a good factory or a bad factory. So you can look around and just get a feel for it and know what to look for. So,
yep. Okay. Excellent. Cameron?
Yeah, for us, I mean, over the course of the last couple of years, we've got 3 or 4 or 5 suppliers that are pretty solid for us that we maybe run 70-80% of our business through. So, like for instance, anything that has anything to do with printing, where something needs to be printed, we basically have a supplier that we work with. So we don't have to look for anything else. Same with like cut and sew. Like with cut and sew stuff, we've got maybe a couple suppliers that we work with. If we need new suppliers, we generally is 1688. We start there and then kind of just work through samples and decide. I also spend some time in the market in Yiwu. So we found some good suppliers there as well as some suppliers that actually manufacture for some of the big box stores in the U.S. It takes a significant amount of time, and obviously most sellers can't get over to the market anyway right now. But for components and in certain products, the market's really good.
That's very interesting, Cameron, because when I went to Yiwu, I mean, back when I was in China in 16, 17, 18, most of the stands there were intermediaries. They weren't really the factories. Are you seeing things differently?
Yeah, if you're looking for finished product, it's not really the place to go. But I'll give you, I mean, we have a wooden photo frame supplier that I found there that we've done over $100,000 of business with. We've some hair clips and some stuff like that. We have a couple suppliers there that they're both the manufacturers, and they manufacture for Claire's, for Walmart, a couple others. This recent trip, I was mostly looking for components. So if it's a hair clip, it's one piece of the hair clip. And the EU market is really good for that stuff too. And yeah, it's for the most part, at least the parts that I've seen, it's the manufacturers, at least for the component section.
Interesting. All right, good stuff, guys. All right, so we're just about out of time. Before we wrap up, any other questions, guys, that you want to ask each other or anyone watching us live? Feel free to let us know.
I'll say something regarding that Alibaba and sourcing. And I'm not a seller. If I were a seller or an importer, I would definitely not use Alibaba or any other online platform, but I would go to guys like Chris and Cameron if they run a sourcing company, because they have boots on the ground. They're actually they are visiting factories. For me, again, as a business person, it's much better to have someone on the ground for me than trying to go into online platforms. On Alibaba, it's just money. Anybody can be a supplier on Alibaba. Anybody could be a gold supplier on Alibaba. Even if you've never manufactured a thing, you can be a gold supplier. You can make yourself look like a factory. And again, for the amateur, beginner importer, Amazon seller, they would never know in the world that the guy they're talking to is a 16-year-old Chinese guy sitting at his parents' house, hustling from the side, being a gold supply factory in Alibaba. So again, if I was an importer or Amazon seller, I would 1,000,000% go to a sourcing company, a guy I trust and who has boots on the ground, actually lives there and sees factories with his own eyes.
Yes, that's great advice, Raphael. And on day one, we in fact had someone that does exactly that. Jing Zhu from Jing Sourcing, based in Yiwu. They've worked with over 4,000 Amazon FBA sellers. So if you would like to contact someone, definitely check out his session and his contact info. All right. So thank you so much, guys. I'd like to go around the room for people that want to learn more. What is the best way to connect with you? Let's start with Raphael.
Basically, either Google my company name Unicargo, Google it, or search it on LinkedIn, Facebook. You'll reach out to our staff. You can reach out to me. You can basically search my name on social media. I'm trying to stay active there, so you can contact me directly through social media. You can contact that stuff through the website. Yeah, pretty
Perfect.
easy basically.
All right, great. And Rahul, best way to connect.
Yeah, sure. My email address, it's actually right there on my screen. And definitely our website or our social media, we have our staff serving people 24 cross 7. So, yeah, anytime, happy to help.
So for any quality control, any lab testing certification needs, contact Rahul. And for any shipping needs, freight forwarding, 3PLs, contact Rafael at Unicargo. Okay, and next, Chris, best way to connect. Oh,
Chris,
you're
you're muted.
muted.
Sorry. Yeah, probably LinkedIn to be honest. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to connect with me.
All right.
Just look
So
for me, Chris
Chris.
Davey, or CJ Davey. I think it is on LinkedIn after the LinkedIn.com bit. So.
Okay, so that's Davey with an E, right? Davey.
Yeah, Davey. Yeah, yeah. So
Perfect.
I'm
And
always happy to help people out. As you know, before Gary, I've done some mentoring and stuff like that for people. It's not really something that I'm offering as a service, but I'm always happy to steer people in the right direction. Yeah. So
yes, yes. All right. Thank you, Chris. And Cameron, best way to connect.
I'm pretty active on Twitter. Twitter is Cameron Walker SZ.
Cameron Walker SC. Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, guys. And
that for
also before we
Suzhou
go,
or Shenzhen.
It works for both. It's very convenient.
Luckily, he moved somewhere else where this SC still works. Yeah.
Exactly.
yes, that's yeah. Cameron used to live in Shenzhen SZ, and now he moved to Suzhou, also SZ. So that's very, prescient of you.
I didn't have to blow up the Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
why I moved
yes.
to though.
Yes. All right. Excellent. Thanks so much, guys. And also, for everyone watching, if you haven't upgraded to the All Access Pass, we do have some special bonuses. In addition to getting lifetime access to all of the 12 trainings, you'll also get the audios to download on the go. You'll get transcripts and you'll get additional discounts, such as Rafael Unicargo is offering a 12% discount off your current Air Express price. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, Rafael?
Yeah, basically we have secured almost a year and a half ago. We have secured a very very big contract with FedEx Express on the China to US trade lane. We currently move about 150 to 200 tons a month on that service. So we have a very very good collaboration with FedEx, and we are. I know for a fact, because that's my industry, that we have pricing that are relevant for to 4 years ago. So the pricing are very 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 aggressive. 4 day service, door to door. We can load from anywhere from 70 kilos, 70 kg up to 2000 kg. Very very fast, and it will be uh, guaranteed better price than what anybody has right now. So yeah, we're
Can
willing
you give
to.
us kind of a reference price for like right this moment? I'm curious. Like into the Amazon FC.
Well, again, again, it depends. It really depends your volume, your quantity, right? But again, if you have the right quantity, I can get it lower than $6 a kilo.
Oh wow. Yeah.
If you have the
That's
right quantity, yeah.
Okay.
Again, that's door to door 4 day service, which is
Awesome.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, think about last year where the prices were, $15, $16, $17 a kilo. We still had that price. So again, prices are going down right now in the market, as we just discussed before. But again, nobody knows with China if and when they're gonna have another closure and start closing airports again. So they'll, spike price up again. So, but again, that price is steady. So we are basically willing to give, a month or 2 month fixed price for sellers.
Yeah. And for the All Access Pass holders, you're going to get 12% off. So, I mean, that could be worth thousands of dollars or even more,
Yeah.
depending on your volume. So, definitely get the All Access Pass if you're interested. And also, another bonus that Rahul is offering is a 15-minute consultation. Can you tell us more about what people can get from that, Rahul?
Yes, that will be a very deep dive specific to your product together with one of our consultants from the lab. So you can discuss your regulations that are applicable at length and ask us as many as questions related to your particular product for compliance.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, could be super valuable if you have issues like what Raphael's client went through with the lab, the lab test report results and to answer any of your questions. So I'm gonna drop the link for the All Access Pass, and just to let you guys know, we have a special discounted price during the summit. The price is going to go up after the summit, after 12 midnight tonight, Eastern time. So definitely grab that before then. All right. So besides that, I just wanted to personally thank all of our speakers today. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Cameron, for coming on, sharing all of these knowledge that is helping the sourcing and the selling community. Really appreciate you guys and wish you best of luck with your businesses. And thank you everybody for watching. This is the new sourcing summit, so I hope that this has been valuable for you guys. I would love to hear your feedback after the event. We'll send out a short survey form. Please let us know what was good, what was not so good, what we can improve, so we can deliver the best value for you guys. All right. So thank you guys again, and we will see you guys at the next session. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Gary, for having
Thank
us.
Bye bye.
See you.